Hey gun people, gonna do one on radio communications. So we're gonna talk about, hopefully you can read that board there if you blow it up, otherwise I'll tell you what it's gonna say. So let's talk about using a radio and different radio communications. Damn wasps are hatching everywhere. Popping out, laying dirt daubers from last year. Now it's getting 80 degrees in here in the barn, so they're all hatching out. So every time I come in here, there's wasp. So here's kind of a few things we're going to cover. We're going to talk about some radio comm today. Talk about 30 seconds. Who you're calling first, the KISS message, what a BOLO is, an alert tone, a too close tone, a code 666. Mayday, and a little bit about the FCC, but not too much. So I just kind of threw this out there so I could stay on track and keep in mind what's going on. So I have these two little, these are my little Midland radios that, I don't know, they say they're good for 26 miles. I haven't tested it, but they're good enough for the neighborhood if we're out looking for somebody or trying to help or communicate. I have a couple other neighbors have some, and if we need to give them out or get on the same channel, etc., we can communicate if there's something going on, either, you know, a natural disaster, a tornado, a hurricane, fire, you know, government invasion, whatever it is. So when you're using a radio, and again, to give you a little background on kind of where radios have come, etc., I mean, radios have been around for a while. You know, World War I, they were using, you only had like direct communication, so you actually had to run comm wire. See those little guys in the old movies running with the spool? And I used to do this in the military because we still use it, because a solid line is the best way to communicate without it being intercepted or cut. And you know if it's cut, you know where it's cut, you know why it's broken, and you can communicate to your different posts. So if I have a guy, you know, in this corner of the base or whatever, I can run a comm line straight to him, and I can ring up his phone, and he'll answer, and we can communicate. So the radios I'm talking about today are pretty much wireless. We're not talking about hard lines. We're talking about two people talking. A little bit military. You know, they use different signals, the different radio bands, VHF, UHF. I mean, I'm sure there's others that I don't know about. I'm basically going to give you from my experience from the military and law enforcement on how radios work. So obviously, and I love watching TV when I see these guys, these movie stars on TV using a radio, because when they talk, they're like this, then they act like they key the mic and they talk, and when they stop talking, they're still holding your finger down, and then you hear the other guy talking. The way a radio works is when you key this mic, you can't hear what anybody else is saying. Only you can talk into the radio. And they can only hear you if they aren't keying their mic, or if no one else is keying their mic. Because when two people key their mic, nobody can hear. So, and I know it's going to shock people, but in the military and cops, if somebody was putting out something that nobody wanted to hear, they thought it was bullshit, two cops would key their radio together, and that would block out the other guy's communication. So, sometimes it was a trick, sometimes it was just being a jerk, because, you know, you didn't either like the supervisor or whoever was putting out bullshit, or he was chewing people out. So a couple guys key their mic, and then nobody could hear what he was saying. Then he'd ask later, "Did y'all hear everybody chewing out?" And he'd be like, "No, man, we didn't hear you. We got the first part, then it went off." God damn it! So, and I'm sure they did to me when I was a supervisor, saying something that they didn't want to hear. They keyed it out. But I mean, that's just how you work radio. So if you have two radios, let's go about. I'll try to stay on my list here, so it keeps me on track. 30 seconds. Anytime you turn on a radio, you should monitor that radio for 30 seconds. And the reason why you want to monitor it is you don't want to turn on a radio and immediately start talking, because you don't know what's going on. You don't know if someone else has an operation in play, if there's an emergency, if somebody just said, "Hey man, give me your coordinates so I can come help you." And now you turn on your radio, you didn't hear that, and you start talking. Meanwhile, there's a guy who needs help giving out his location and everybody missed it. So you always monitor a radio. They say for 30 seconds, some will say for a minute, but you just want to make sure there's nothing going on. And in law enforcement, that's the reason for an alert tone. When we have an emergency going on, in California they call it a code 33, I'm not sure what they call it here in Texas, but If I'm involved in something, a foot pursuit, if I'm about to enter the house on a warrant, if I'm in a high-risk situation and I want to make sure I have priority radio traffic and it's my radio, I'll say, give me the alert tone, give me the beeper, or code 33. As soon as I went in a vehicle pursuit and I said, failure to yield, or so-and-so, they heard my siren, they heard my voice go up, they knew I was chasing somebody, automatically they would turn on what's called the alert tone, and it beeps every 3 seconds or 5 seconds, depending on what it's set, and you just hear beep. And the reason for that is anybody else on the radio knows I'm not talking because there's an emergency in play, and I'm not going to key the radio. Someone else is needing this radio for priority traffic. So when you hear the alert tone in law enforcement, that means shut the hell up, stay off the radio, unless you have an emergency. Now, I've worked in some cities when the alert turns on, it's a alert turner for 2 different people. You got these guys entering the house with shots fired, you got these guys in a pursuit over here, and then on the other side of town you got guys showing up to a robbery in progress and the guys inside the bank. So you have 3 different emergencies and the alert turns on. Basically that just means everyone else stay off the damn radio and the guys who have it. And then once each incident clears, then they'll turn off the alert tone when they know that nobody needs priority traffic. Sometimes when people are talking back and forth and the radio gets really busy, and depending on your city, on how many units you have on the road, on what operation you're doing in the military, on who's working the radio, some people get long-winded on the radio, some people talk too much on the radio, some people put out shit that nobody needs to know, but they just want to talk on the radio. So depending on how busy your radio is, sometimes you have to break in really quick in between 2 transmissions and just say priority traffic. And then hopefully somebody will hear it. But remember, when you're keying your radio, you can't hear what people are saying. And if 2 people key the radio, nobody can hear what anybody's saying because it blocks the signal and it's done. So monitoring the radio for 30 seconds is important. Who you're calling first. When you key up a radio, it used to drive me nuts. You get somebody new on the radio and they'd be like, this is so-and-so calling so-and-so. That's way too much radio traffic. You don't, the first thing when this radio breaks squelch, and when I say break squelch, I mean it keys the radio. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this.
Test 1, 2.
So the second that radio breaks squelch or breaks silence, the first thing you want someone to hear is who you're calling. So if I'm calling Billy Bob, when I key this radio, the first thing I'm saying is Billy Bob. And then I will follow up, sometimes I'll follow up, this is, and then who I am. Billy Bob, this is Billy Jack. Okay, whoever you're calling, you always say first. So when that radio breaks and I'm doing something and I hear that radio, and I know somebody's about to talk, I listen, and if I don't hear my call sign, I know it's not for me and I'm going about my business. So when you're talking on the radio, the first thing you say is who you're calling. And then normal procedure is whoever you're calling, you say first, then you follow up with this is so-and-so. Some people drop the this is. Okay, if I'm calling 1 alpha and I'm 2 alpha, when I break the radio, it's going to be 1 alpha, 2 alpha. And he knows 1 alpha is the first thing I'm calling, and I'm saying I'm 2 alpha. Now most people, when you're working in a smaller agency or a small operation where you know the people you're talking, you can tell who they are. You don't have to say who this is, etc. You say who you're calling. So dispatch, a lot of times, instead of saying, you know, my call sign was 7 Henry 21, so when dispatch was calling me, they wouldn't say 7 Henry 21, this is dispatch. I know who dispatch is. I know when dispatch is calling me. They don't have to say that. So a lot of dispatchers would just say who they're calling. If they wanted me, my radio would break squelch and I'd hear 7 Henry 21, and I'd be like, shit, that's me. 7 Henry 21, go ahead. And then they would give me the information. So they wouldn't have to say this is. And saying who it is really isn't that important, but standard radio protocol is you say who you're calling first, then you follow up with this is who you are. Okay? KISS, keep it simple and stupid. People want to get on the radio, you want to make very, very short transmissions. Because remember, when you're talking, no one else can talk. So you've taken away anybody's ability to call for help, to put out critical information, to communicate with somebody. You know, they may see something going down right in front of them and they're trying to tell the guy, hey, watch out behind you, there's a guy. And because you're over here saying, hey, my tire's low and when I went to the store, they didn't have the pump and they want to charge me. Is there another place I can fill up my tire? Because you get dummies like that talking on the radio saying stupid shit. And what that causes is it causes you to wash out your radio. There's a thing when two police cars or two fire departments or whatever are coming to an intersection and they both have their sirens on. It's called washout. Because you hear your own siren, you don't hear the other siren. And you just tend to only hear your siren, and that's how cars crash. Well, when you have somebody talking on the radio all the time, people tend to wash that out or ignore it, and then they stop listening to radio. That's not a good thing if you're on an op to where you're getting out information. If you're just relaxing, there's nothing going on, and somebody's just, telling someone on the radio, then it's not that big of a deal. But normally they call it radio discipline. Get on the radio, keep it simple, stupid. Say what you need to say in the least amount of words as quick as you can and get off the radio. You want to make your point short and clear. A bolo, I'm pretty sure most law enforcement agencies use that standard while. It's be on the lookout. So if somebody puts out a bolo, they're putting a be on the lookout. So if I was working and I just showed up, let's say I showed up at a gang shooting or a gang stabbing. And I did a few interviews and I'm on scene and I'm talking and I get a suspect information. And somebody's a witness said, yeah, I saw the guy, he had a 13 on his neck and he had 3 teardrops on his eye. And I heard some guy call him Paco. Okay, and then I talked to another witness and so I'm taking my notes, I'm trying to control the crime scene, I'm trying to get information so I can get information out about the suspect. Hair length, color, height, what was he wearing, how did he leave? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a bolo for other agencies. And when you put out a bolo, you give people a warning that a bolo is about to come so the good cops can get out their pens and paper and write down the information. Because then they're going to be looking for this person. Now some of the cops will be like, I don't give a shit. Or they'll just try to do it by ear. And then they'll be questioning you later. Hey, on that bolo, what was that guy wearing? Be like, dude, if you get the damn pen out and wrote it down, you'd know. But anyway, if you're looking for a guy and it's on the fly and it's quick, sometimes I'll put out a bolo as soon as I get there. I know the guy, and we've arrested him before, he was seen. As soon as I figure out who it is, I'll just put out a quick bolo saying, hey, we're looking for so-and-so, we know he drives this color car, more to follow. And then that way everybody knows that bolo. But a normal, traditional bolo, and you can do this when you're doing your operations or etc., when you're putting out intel information, you could call it a information bolo, you call a bolo, whatever you want to initial it or call it for a name. If we're doing an operation and we get new intelligence that we want everybody to listen, you can come up with your own code word to make sure people listen or get ready to write down some critical information they may need. So a bolo sounds something like this. Control, dispatch, whoever you're calling, if a lot of people call their city, Sacramento, I'll call SAC. SAC dispatch will know a SAC. I'll say SAC 721, stand by for bolo. And then she'll either give me an alert tone depending on the priority of the bolo. If it's a violent felon fleeing with a kid or something, then I'll get an alert tone. She'll key a button and it gives out a beep, beep, beep. And that radio, when you hear that, lets everybody know that there's some information coming that they need to pay attention to. Again, when you get that washout, I'm talking to people, I'm eating code, I'm having lunch, I'm not really listening to the radio because I'm not expecting calls, and then I hear that alert tone, I know there's something important coming out, so I listen. So then she may go, all units stand by for a bolo from 721, go ahead. And then I'll go 721, be on the lookout for a Hispanic male with a tattoo of 13 on his neck, last seen wearing a red shirt, blue jeans, 5'7", 180, last seen driving a gold Cutlass Supreme, jacked up in the rear with a broken windshield, and a 13 on the trunk with bullet holes in the side. And then I'll put that information out and say any information on this vehicle, point of contact is 721. And then boom. So now they know dispatch is typing this in, so they have all the info. All the units are supposed to be writing it down. And then if that unit is contacted later anytime, they know to contact me because I'm the point of contact, I'm working a case, I'm the investigator side, etc. So that's what a bolo is. An alert tone I just talked about, they'll give you that alert tone. This ties in to code 33, we used to call it. Again, when you're chasing somebody or something, you say, give me the beeper, code 33. They turn on that tone, beep, beep, every so many seconds. That means keep the radio clear for emergency traffic An alert tone is just a 1 or 2 beeper to get you to pay attention to radio, saying we're about to put out some important information. Listen up, everybody. This isn't normal radio washout traffic. Pay attention. So that's what an alert tone is. FCC, I don't think they monitor these little guys. Supposedly they monitor and they're in control of anything in the air because that's just the way the government is. They want their fingers and everything. But I think they're a little bit more hands-on on like the ham radio operators, CB radio operators. Technically the FCC can kind of enforce that and get involved, but they normally don't because it's kind of a low band. You don't have a lot of distance. The farther distance you can reach out, the more the government wants to be able to control, shut you down, figure out who you are, track you, give you a license, get their fees, get their penalties, whatever. So the FCCs can get in radios. These are kind of not so much, they don't mess with it, but I mean, if they want to, they can get their damn fingers in anything. Mayday, the FCC's really big on Maydays. If you're on a boat and you put out a fake Mayday, Coast Guard, they're going to track you down, they're going to find you. They don't play around with that. So a Mayday is you're in trouble, you need serious help. When you hear Mayday out on the water, you know that's a serious thing. You don't screw around with that. So the FCC will get you for that. A code 666, no, not the devil. A code 666 is what we used to do when, if there was a robbery or something in town, and this was pretty much in Northern California, all the counties would get together and they'd come up with a code, and each agency would have a road that they would block. So if a bank is robbed, or a store is robbed here, and I get there and I know the suspect left the car, I can put out a 666. When I put out a 666, that means every agency is transmitted, hey, we got a 666 put out by 721 on this store at this location, take up your points. And what that does basically is every agency is assigned a certain point out of the city. And sometimes you'll be driving and you'll see a cop car parked on the side of the road just looking at traffic. Sometimes they're looking for speeders, sometimes they're out on a 666 or whatever they call it, and they're looking for a suspect vehicle of a robbery, of an assault, a stabbing, a shooting, whatever, child abduction, and they've got units posted at every exit out of the city. So, if you're trying to get out of the city and you don't want them to find you, know that if they put out a 666, there's going to be units parked, and it's not so much a roadblock to where they're checking papers, but it's just kind of a visual roadblock around a certain area with all exit points, so that way we kind of control the suspect we're looking for inside. And then too close tones, I'm going to show you what happens when you're too close to each other and you key a radio. So now I have 2 radios. So if I'm talking to my buddy, he's got his radio here, I'm here, and I key my radio, that tone you get means you're too close. And that not only irritates everybody else listening to the radio, but it also blocks anybody from talking. Not only can you not talk, he can't talk. So if I'm talking on the radio, hey, I got some important information over here, and this guy walks up on me, hey, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm talking and nobody can hear me because of the alert tone. And I say it's an alert tone because that's what it sounds like. But basically, you're too close, your signals cross, and it causes that beeping. So not only do you need to be aware how close you are to somebody that's talking, you don't want to block out their transmission by walking up on them like a dummy when they're talking and then you key the radio. Now again, cops learn how to do this. A lot of times all it takes is if you're keying is a turn sideways. So we have an alert tone, and I can just turn sideways, and now I've taken away that tone. So a lot of times you'll see cops talking to somebody and all of a sudden they'll turn their radio away from the guy transmitting. And what that's doing is putting that block so you don't get this feedback from 2 radios being too close to each other. So that's just a quick down and dirty on radio communications. I'll put a link on the site I have, whether you're going to use the phonetic alphabet is how you, when you spell something out phonetically so you don't miscommunicate. If you need to get a road, a name, a location, make sure they understand it's the right one, you may spell it out phonetically. Now for cops and most law enforcement, they use the phonetic alphabet. Adam, Boyd, Charles, David, Edward, they use more names. In the military, we used Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Kilo. You use different, so there's 2 different phonetic alphabets. Depending on which one you're using, you can pick whichever one you want to use. But knowing them kind of both or understanding, and basically I know people that make up words on the fly. They get to Q, and instead of using Queen or Quebec, which is the 2, they'll use, cauliflowers. I'm not cauliflower, that would be C. But they'll use some off-the-wall word that you're like, what? What the hell? But you figure it out. That word starts with this letter. That's the letter he wants. So basically, if I'm spelling out dummy, in the cop one, I'll be David, Union, Mary, Mary, yellow. And if I'm spelling it out in the military side, it'll be Delta, uniform, Mike, yellow. I think yellows might be the same for both of them. A couple of them, they use the same letter. Or no, it's Yankee. It's Yankee for military, yellow for the civilian. So if you learn them both, that's great. But again, I'll put a link in the description on where to find those. And that's the phonetic alphabet when you're hearing somebody spell something out so you don't miscommunicate a word. And if you need to blow that up real quick, just as a memory. And then we'll end with my sleeping war kitty. Moki, you're a good kitty. All right, we'll end that there on radios.